Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over the market. Let's talk about what is happening today, what we can expect moving into potentially the rest of this week with an absolutely astronomical, one of the probably the biggest weeks we've honestly had in a very long time. Of course, tonight is the election night. Now, whether or not we actually find out who the next sitting president will be tonight or not is really still a question. But I'm sure we'll have at least a decent idea as to who might be the next sitting president. Because don't forget, sometimes these do take a few more days, right? Sometimes it persists for a few more days before we really find out. But yeah. And then we have FOMC on Thursday. So pretty wild week, pretty stacked week. But let's just jump into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my analysis, etc., I do have a membership section on YouTube where I constantly share intraday thoughts, post updates, etc. on Tesla and sometimes other stocks as well. Every single day the market is open. Lately, I've been sharing a bit of AMD, Disney, Coca-Cola, actually, believe it or not. I actually entered Coca-Cola not that long ago, yesterday. Up slightly so far, which is, I'm happy about that. With a potentially nice little bullish engulfing candle too. I'm okay with that, actually. Coca-Cola with a potential nice reversal. So I am in that. Not a huge position, but nonetheless, I am in that. But yeah, let's jump into it. If you enjoy, again, don't forget to hit that like button. But Tesla closing the day up a nice respectable, actually 3.5% we'll say compared to the market. We can actually argue this is kind of in line with the market up about 1.3%. So Tesla maybe slightly outperforming the market, but this is kind of what we mentioned yesterday, right? Where we were talking about how two things, right? First of all, I mentioned how I have that order. Remember I said that I have that order ready to get filled post market. Well, I did fill it, and I did actually take profit a little bit early. I'm not gonna lie, though I did play Tesla twice. I'll explain why. But we did have this kind of like, descending channel or wedge or, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter too much. The point is we were in this little descending pattern and we actually ended up capping up above it, which is a nice sight to see. And we had a nice little bit of follow through. But unfortunately, despite us going back above the market bias you can see is actually still red, surprisingly, despite us being above it, almost as if it's not buying it, right? And the 1 hour chart, you can see we're also getting a little bit, concerning here because the stochastic is on the verge of flipping bearish. And of course, you have the BX trender, still green, but the bars are starting to make lower lows. And usually when this starts happening, the actual band itself, which is currently green, ends up following not too long after. But I do want to preface everything else I say today, and potentially even for the next couple of days, that, with this election uncertainty, if you will, here, think of this as like a massive earnings event for the market almost. Depending on how things play out, and especially for Tesla, I do want to make it clear, SPY, just the broader market ultimately will go up, even if we get a dip, the next day or two, whatever. Those are probably going to be ultimately on their way back up, right? But Tesla, it's definitely a bigger question mark, for better or for worse. Maybe it goes up even more, or it could potentially crash, right? Really, this depends on really the election results and Donald Trump, because Elon is just so obviously pro Donald Trump. So we'll see how that plays out. But nonetheless, moving into the actual technical analysis, the 1 hour is a little bit perplexing because, again, the band is, the bands are red, stochastic is on the verge of flipping bearish, right? And, the band is green here, but, it looks like it wants to slowly get ready to flip back to being bearish. So there are some signs of concern here, right? The fact that we couldn't close above 253, I don't like, which I'll show why in the 15-minute chart very soon. But the one thing that is kind of bullish here is the fact that super trend, it's another indicator I started using. I'm testing it out, but it's essentially used, at least I will be using it in confluence with the market bias. Is currently, you can see at the bottom, actually showing a green, it's essentially bullish, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? It's bullish as long as Tesla doesn't go below 245, essentially is what it's saying. The reason it's confusing is because I personally like it when they're both green, right? For instance, if you go on the daily, they're actually both green. On the daily, you can see here, the market bias is green and the super trend is green. That's, great. I think the daily, again, I'll make it clear, as of right now and as it stands, even if Tesla quote unquote crashes down to like, let's say 230s, in my view, I still view the daily bullish. I still think it's bullish. And I still think as long as we, again, don't really go too far below about 230, right? 235 to as low as 225, like that $10 range. I know it's a big range, but ideally hold 230s. I still view Tesla bullish. I really do. I still think Tesla looks pretty good, honestly. But, I still see some potential short-term weakness, right? I still think that there is a chance for that. But again, as long as we hold that level, I actually still think the daily chart looks pretty good. I really do. So just watch for that, right? Moving forward. I'm personally not fully buying this move just yet. Now, one reason I'm not fully buying this move just yet is because, if we go over to the 15-minute, right? So what happened? We had a massive push up, market bias on the 15-minute actually turned green, and then we started consolidating in this bull flag, which is what I was telling my members about, and then we ended up finally breaking back above, right? And I pretty much re-entered here. So I pretty much bought post-market yesterday. I sold right around here, and then I pretty much bought back actually on the retest right here, and then I sold somewhere around here. I don't know exactly where, I forgot, but somewhere around here, right? And the reason I don't like the fact that we didn't close above 253-ish is because you can see, right, when we were consolidating in this bull flag, you can see a lot of selling pressure happen pretty much, right as we entered around 253, give or take, of course, right? And then we finally broke above it on this candle, and then we turned it back into a resistance. That, I like to see that. That was good. That's why I entered. I like to see that. That's bullish. And then we continued. Phenomenal. And then we had a massive sell-off along with Trump Media, right? Massive sell-off occurred. It even got halted a few times. And Tesla essentially followed suit because, Tesla right now, it is essentially a Trump stock, right? And I don't like the fact that this massive red candle brought us back into this range that we had issues getting above, which took this white candle to do. And this candle essentially reversed that whole trend, if you will. And we closed a little bit on the lower end as well. The market bias on the 15-minute is still green, but I don't like the fact that we're closing back underneath that level. Now we did close above 250, which is good because, for instance, if we close below 250, which you can see, these candles constantly found support around, pretty much 250. Right around here, right? If we close below this red line, that would have been extra concerning. So the fact that we're at least closing above that is good. But I don't like the fact that we can't close and hold the daily at least above 253. I don't like the fact that we close below that. I'm not a fan of that. So in other words, honestly, I'll be completely real. It's perplexing. I'm not sure where it wants to go next as of right now. If I had to pick a direction, based on the 1 hour and based on how the daily still looks, I honestly still lean a little bit bearish. And I still want Tesla to come back down to the 230s. That's where I get, that's where I personally will get much more excited because again, despite everything, despite this jump, right? Because again, Tesla, don't forget 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red days in a row. I can't remember the last time Tesla had 7 red days in a row. So we were due for a bounce. Like the odds were just stacked against Tesla having another red day. Like it doesn't happen that often, almost if ever, right? And that's one of the reasons I actually longed it yesterday at market or post-market close, right? But again, if we just take the Fibonacci, regardless, we still haven't seen that 618 Fibonacci retracement. I still really want to see it come down to that level, which is still within that daily market bias, and I still want to see that happen. On top of that, the daily chart, the reason why I'm still a little bit skeptical is because the daily chart, the band on the BX trender, still bearish, right? Stochastic, still bearish, still cross to the downside, right? So I'm seeing these kind of scenarios and I'm thinking, you know what? It feels like there's still some weakness. Like despite the daily chart, like I said, overall, still looking pretty good as long as we maintain above that 230-ish range. Like slightly shorter term, like within the next week on the daily chart or less, I still see a bit of weakness that can still potentially bring us down to this range over here around that mid-ish 230s. And that's where I personally, if we see that, we'll most likely begin, actually longing the stock in a more confident fashion. And I think that's where these indicators will slowly start to settle in and get ready to flip back to being bullish, assuming we, of course, even hold that area, right? If we crash down below that, well, things can be a lot different. This is, of course, assuming the bullish trend stays intact, which as of right now, I have no reason to believe the bullish trend would not stay intact based on how I'm seeing the daily candles, as long as we hold this general area I just mentioned several times. So that's kind of the idea I'm looking for, right? That's kind of the main kind of vision I have, if that makes sense, on Tesla. It is confusing. We're in confusing times. I'm personally not even playing the stock right now. I did, X and all of my positions on Tesla today, right? Because I did a small little swing trade. But my long-term account, I'm still holding, right? This is just my trading account. My long-term account, haven't changed anything. Still holding everything. I'm holding shares all the way from like 165 or something like that. I'm not touching that. That's just holding, that's holding put. I'm riding those up to $1,000 per share or back to zero, essentially. I'm riding those shares all the way, wherever it goes, to heaven or hell. That doesn't really matter to me too much. But on the trading account, that's where I'm more interested, right? And that's kind of my general idea and the kind of my viewpoints, if you will, on Tesla moving forward here. On top of this, we also have something interesting. So a good friend of mine that trades, he's a great trader. He trades something specifically called imbalances, right? Imbalances or fair value gaps is essentially, easiest way to think about it is essentially if the stock price moves up too fast, too quickly, right? You essentially leave these imbalances that the stock essentially didn't have time to fill them. So you can see in the past, for instance, on the daily chart, we have one all the way down here back at the 150s ish, right? Which I don't know, maybe we'll fill it, maybe we won't. I have no idea. They're not perfect because there's all the way ones down all the way here. So it's not perfect. It's not going to fill every single one, but it's pretty good at filling most of them. And in this case, for instance, when we had this massive rally not that long ago, all the way here back in June, right? Massive rally, we left those two imbalances and we filled both of them. We filled both of them easily, right? They had these imbalances above us, we filled both of them almost to perfection, right? And the point is, we have two close imbalances, right? We have one that we actually filled today, so which is good, or yesterday rather, which is a good sign on the daily chart. But we still have this massive one that happened on the earnings spike. Now, obviously, whether or not it gets filled is anyone's guess, but that is just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind that this does exist. And, Tesla does a pretty good job at filling most of them, not all of them, but most of them. So just, take that for what it's worth. And if I go to the 65-minute chart, same idea. Sorry, 15-minute chart, same idea, right? If I kind of zoom out right here, there's a small imbalance also sitting at my major level that I'm personally getting really excited for, 235. You can see a massive imbalance sitting there as well. So again, take it as you will, right? Some people trade off of that, some don't. He's been very good at and successful at doing it. So some others maybe might not find it as such. Really depends on how you trade on your own fashion. Now, one thing I do want to point out is the fact that towards the end of the day, obviously there's a lot of flow, a lot of bearish flow, and a little bit of bullish flow towards the end of the day on SPY. This is SPY, of course, on Cheddar Flow. Great service, by the way. Link down below for a discount if you're interested in trying it out for yourself. Great option service. One that really did catch my eye, which is this blue one, right? Highly unusual, it's labeled. Why? Because, well, it's highly unusual. It's 2.1 million premium inputs, right? Someone bought above the ask, showing urgency, 10 minutes or 20 minutes before close. I believe it says 20 minutes before close, roughly. November 22nd, 560 strike. SPY is at 576. 560 is like way below us, right? All the way down here. Okay, never mind, it's only 3%. I thought it was more. I thought it was more than that. Okay, it's 3% below us, but nonetheless, someone is clearly either hedging or they're clearly thinking that the market is about to have a bit of a sell-off, maybe like a panic sell-off, maybe something with the election that happens or whatever the case, or maybe some panic with the election plus heading into FOMC. I don't know. Nobody knows, but I see this. And it does kind of pique my curiosity because I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money for something that is not that far out in terms of dates, but that also is out of the money. And it's also above the strike, or above the ask rather. So that's like a little bit unusual to say the least. So watch for that moving forward, and let's see how the market reacts to this election. It's a massive question mark. Nobody knows for sure, but the market did actually close up above the 21 EMA today on both SPY and QQQ, which is a pretty good sign. That actually is not a bad sign whatsoever, the fact that they're closing back above that. So the market looks like it wants to reverse. I think it just comes down to whether or not this election allows it to reverse, because again, one candle does not make a trend. And don't forget, we've had 3 candles that did close below the 21 EMA on both QQQ and SPY and held below it for essentially 3 days. So just because we close one day above it, it's not enough yet. We need to see a couple more days closing above it to really get that confidence, because this could still be a bull trap. Let's just see what happens. Again, massive question marks. I'm not going to pretend like I know what's going to happen next. Let this election, in my opinion, play out. Not financial advice. I'm going very light into this election. I have some bullish positions, but I am ultimately pretty light right now, and I'm not taking any major risk. Donald Day, DJT is selling off post hours, down 3.5%. So yeah, let's just see how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see how it goes. In my opinion, don't rush into anything stupid. And yeah, good luck to everyone potentially for playing in the election. Peace.